back in the Cub Crafters Carbon Cub FX3, doing another flight from Anchorage into the Chugach Mountains to the east of Anchorage. We did a similar flight yesterday, but today we're taking a slightly more southerly routing and going directly over the base of the Whiteout Glacier. Zooming in here on the Anchorage Aeronautical sectional chart, which depicts our route today. Again, we took off from Merrill Field, where the airplane is based, and headed due east into the Chugach Mountains. Headed to the top of the Whiteout Glacier, which is where the video starts, and then we fly down the glacier towards a landing strip that's near the base of the glacier, the toe of the glacier. You can see there's 6,000 to 7,000 foot terrain all around the glacier, but the landing strip is about 500 feet above sea level. As the video starts here, we're descending through about 5,000 feet down the glacier into its terminus in the Lake George Glacier Valley, again about 25 miles to the east of Anchorage. It descends pretty steeply here. I'm flying at about 120 miles an hour, and I'm doing about 1,000 feet per minute just to try and keep up with the downslope of the glacier as we fly down valley. You can see the jagged crevices in the glacier. We'll pan the camera around to give you a better look at the surface of this glacier. Getting some of that light blue color as the sun passes through the ice. Every color is absorbed except for blue, so it's blue for the same reason that the sky is blue. Pan the camera around, give you a 360 view on this GoPro 360 Max camera that I have mounted on an Exploring Alaska Flight Flicks tailwheel camera mount. It does need to be an experimental airplane like this one for this camera mount to be legal, but it is nice to get an interesting view as you fly through some rugged terrain like this. Now we're down to around 2,500 feet as we continue flying towards the terminus of the glacier, and it terminates into a little glacial pond. Narrows quite a bit as it descends. Now, there's some interesting circular formations on the surface of the glacier down there with some holes in the middle. I understand those could be what are called moulins, M-O-U-L-I-N, which are basically deep wells that meltwater ends up pouring into and going down to the surface of the valley underneath the glacier. So kind of interesting how those things form and how you can spot them from the air. So now we're past the glacier, and you can see the lake that it terminates into there. And as we pass by the cliffs on the left, my friend Toby, who's riding with me on the flight today, saw some goats. At least 5 or 6 goats on that cliff to the left of the airplane as we pass through the valley at the bottom of the glacier on these near vertical cliffs. There's no problem for these mountain goats, though. That's just where they like to hang out. Unfortunately, they're pretty hard to see. They're just little specks in the video, but we did take some still shots once we got on the ground, so you might be able to see them at the end of the video if you get a chance. But the whole point of coming down here is that there is a strip at the bottom of the glacier where you can land. It's known by locals as the Whiteout Glacier Strip. And it's about 800 feet long, 20 feet wide. It's kind of rough with some little alder bushes and some big rocks that you have to deal with. But what I'm going to do now is set myself up for a touch and go on that strip. We're going to drag a wheel, see how it feels, just to make sure the ground's firm, and try and get a feel for the approach, because I've never landed here. I know there's 100 other pilots at least that have landed here probably this summer, but since it's new to me, I need to do a low pass, fill out the approach, drag a wheel, and decide just how it's best to come into this strip. Now, the winds are out of the south, which is pretty typical for the Lake George Glacier Valley, because the glacier is terminated to the south of this location, which is not the Whiteout Glacier. It's a separate glacier, which kind of comes into view as I turn here off to the left It's much bigger than the Whiteout Glacier, at least at the low elevations. And it's the dominating force in terms of generating winds. And winds generally flow down glacier, so from high elevation to low elevation, and that's what dominates this part of this glacial valley. So now I'm coming in to the strip, making a low approach, and I'm going to drag one wheel just to feel out the surface of the strip. Then I go back into the air, and all feels good, all looks good. Figured out the approach I'm going to make. I'm going to leave my flaps down, at least at one notch, come back in for a full stop landing. Turning downwind now. Gonna fine-tune my approach a little bit so that I can maximize my use of the available runway. Again, 800 feet is about triple what you really need to land in this airplane, so it shouldn't be an issue. But there is, like I said, about a 10 to 15 foot alder bush or alder tree at the end of the runway that you kind of have to duck down over after you pass. And that does slightly decrease the amount of usable runway that you have on this Whiteout Glacier Strip. So turning base here, flying at about 55, slowing up to about 50 miles per hour as I roll out on final, and then I'm keeping the airspeed back, trying to touch down around 40 miles per hour or so. We got the airplane loaded up closer to 1,800 pounds today with my friend Toby in the back and about 20 gallons of fuel. So I touch down, do a tail wheel, low wheel landing, and it's a very nice strip, pretty smooth. Stop the airplane. Next we'll pull off to the side of the runway and get out of the way in case anybody else wants to land here, but I didn't see anybody else out here today. Shut the engine down, and my friend Toby and I will get out, walk around for a few minutes. I've attached some still photos to the end of the video of the mountain goats that we saw as we flew down the glacier. My friend Toby took the picture, and also a picture from inside the cockpit right before we start to fly down the glacier. Thanks for watching the video. Have a good day. Hope you enjoyed it.